Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of TalkFlow. This is episode 20. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about how you guys, as freelancers or agency owners, can spend your free time and what you guys should focus on. Um, and the main reason we do want to talk about this is because, it's inevitable in your career as a freelancer, you are going to have periods where you don't have any clients or you have very, very little client work. And a lot of us, we get into panic mode, and we start to panic and be like, oh, I'm not getting no client work. What are we going to do? Da, da, da. And you get stressed. And when you're stressed, you don't make good decisions. So, so that's why in this episode, we're going to be talking about what you can do during your down periods and all of the stuff that you can focus on to progress your business forward and your freelancing career forward, rather than just stressing and about client work and then just, you know, taking on a bad client and that just ruining your experience. So,
Oh man, yeah.
yeah. Do you have anything to add to that, Vim? Or
We have a disclaimer.
oh,
Our
okay,
disclaimer.
yeah,
Yeah. So this whole month we only had like 2 episodes, or maybe even one
I think
episode
one,
released.
bro.
Yeah,
Or two.
and we have
Yeah,
a
I
very
don't know.
valid reason. So in the first
Mm,
week, you had COVID, and then the second week I had COVID. So we
yeah,
just couldn't record anything. It was just horrible.
yeah,
But hopefully we have more more
yeah,
consistency in April.
yeah. Hopefully, man. So yeah, we do apologize to you guys. We do know we haven't been. We actually on a roll, man. We were on a roll.
We
We're
were, we
pushing out
were.
episodes every week. We had like some amazing guests on the show.
And then,
But yeah, man, COVID is the reason why. So
oh man,
we do apologize, guys. But I promise we're going to be more consistent now every week, every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Expect an episode from us.
cool.
Um, and another thing is we can't even like post on the YouTube community part because I don't think we have enough subs.
No,
So, but
yeah,
once we do have enough subs, we will be posting out reminders and stuff like that.
yeah. I think
But
that's 1,000 subs, isn't it? If I'm not mistaken,
I think
something
so.
like that.
I believe,
It's
yeah.
insane. Thousands, just a lot. Well, we'll see.
Hopefully we're gonna get there, man. Hopefully by this year,
Hopefully,
hopefully. But
hopefully.
yeah, guys, we've got another disclaimer, and this disclaimer is about the topic we're going to be talking about today, which is down periods. I think I mentioned this before. It's completely normal that to have down periods as a freelancer.
Yeah,
But we're
let's
gonna be
see.
telling you guys what to focus on.
Yeah,
So let's get started. Um,
cool.
so what is a down period? So I think
Okay,
I mentioned this
in
before.
yeah,
Yeah,
go.
it's just basically a period where
You're
you don't
down.
have enough clients, or you don't have much
Yeah, down.
client work to
Yeah,
do essentially, and you
yeah,
again you just get stuck into panic mode. You're like, oh no, I don't have no clients,
yeah.
I can't work on
And
projects. What am I doing? Yeah, that's
yeah.
basically what down
So
period is.
this usually happens. I think even we go through this a lot as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the main reason is, first of all, a lot of your lead generation is depending on the marketing and the sales that you're
Mm-hmm.
doing, which often happens when you're in your down period. So it's almost like a cycle, and every freelancer can relate to this. When you're in your down period, you'll start getting more leads. You have more time to engage with them. You sign on more projects, and then the next 2 3 weeks, you have no time to do lead generation, and you're working on the project, right? You're designing it, you're developing it, or whatever. And you're at your peak of just working, and then
Mm-hmm.
once you start wrapping up all your projects, you go back down to this trough because there isn't a consistent lead generation process that's happening, which is difficult to
Mm-hmm.
do as a one person or even a very small team. It's very, very difficult to sort of focus
Yeah.
all your energy in just lead generation. So that is why a
Yeah.
lot of this down period happens.
I
And
think I think that's
naturally,
that's yeah. I think that's inevitable because
yeah,
once you go through enough like down periods, eventually what's gonna happen is during your up periods, let's just say, when you have enough clients,
yeah, you're generating.
when you get enough up periods, you're gonna build
Yeah,
your client base, and eventually that client base is gonna be providing you with more
not
clients.
just client base, but
Yeah,
you will also get capital. So you'll get more
yeah,
money coming in that
capital
you
as well.
can either use to delegate a lot of the work that you're doing. So if you're
Mm-hmm.
designing, maybe you can find a designer to help you out. Or if you're developing, you can get a developer to help you out so that you can sort of keep consistently churning out lead
Yeah,
generation or finding clients or engaging with clients. And this always happens at one point where you just have enough money coming in for each project that you can easily give the project to someone else to help you out to finish it. Or all you need to do is sort of project manage, which is this is, I'm talking through if you're going through the agency phase, but if you're going down the freelancer phase, this down period, you can avoid it by, signing long-term contracts or being
Mm-hmm.
a long-term freelancer at a company or agency, or even multiple agencies. So, it's very
Mm-hmm.
rare for an agency sort of give you projects every single month, because again, they are going through this up and down as well. So if you can have every, 2 or 3 agencies that you're freelancing in, it sort of all can come in this out of sync phase where one agency is down phase, another agency is up phase. So you sort of benefit from both. So this is me trying to tell you, like, if you're doing the agency path, you have to figure out lead generation. But if you're also doing the freelancer part, it's sort of figuring out lead generation as well by, you know, making yourself, acquainted with all these other agencies that you can help out with.
Yeah. And I think another thing is when you get enough down periods, you're gonna what you do in your down periods is gonna pay off for like months or years to come. So eventually that will offset your down periods. And over time, the length of your down period is gonna get shorter and shorter and shorter to the
Yeah,
point where you're just busy all the time. And that
yeah,
process, it does take a long time. It's like an exponential effect, right? Your
and
first
it
down period
always.
maybe like 3 months, your
And
next
do
maybe
you
like two and a
do
half
you
months, you
always
know what I mean?
feel
So
like do you always feel like during a down period you're like, damn, I just want to work, and then during your work
yeah.
period it's like, oh man, I just want to go back to just
Yeah.
chilling.
Bro, it's just a cycle, man. I think,
Yeah.
and yeah, yeah. I don't want to get philosophical, but it's about life is a cycle.
Oh no,
That is true though.
no,
Everything
that is a
is a
different
cycle. You know what I
podcast.
mean? Yeah, but it's true, bro. Like everything is a cycle.
Yeah, you
And
just
that's
need to
true for us
know,
freelancers as well.
once you have enough data to sort of see this pattern, you can see
Yeah.
what you can do to avoid this. It's again, we can't say
Hmm.
like you will reach a point where you will never have a downtime, where you can but I think that's what we're going to be talking about in these episodes. What do you do in this downtime besides lead
Hmm.
generation? What else you could be doing? And I think
Yeah.
that leads
And
us to like the first
yeah. And
chapter.
yeah,
First,
yeah. Before we get into that,
yeah,
I think it's like we're going to be telling you guys, although it's not going to be the most, exciting tasks or things you have to do,
yeah,
is the smart stuff to do that will pay off, you know, in the long run.
yeah,
And yeah, just let me just get into the first example. And this is like one of my favorite things to do, which is outreach. And there's different types of outreach. And I want to talk about two of them today. So the first type of outreach is where you outreach to like cold clients, for example. And then the other one is where you actually, sorry, scratch that. There's two examples of outreach. One of them is where you outreach to lost leads, and the other one is where you outreach to old clients. And let me just talk about the first one. So if you outreach to your lost leads, I like to do this, and trust me when I say this, guys, I'll probably close like I think with all of the so everyone has a lead that they lost. Maybe their pricing your pricing was too high or too low, which is I don't know why your pricing is too low, but we all lose a lead, right? And what I like to do is when I have a down period is reach out to those leads that are lost and tell them or email them or send them a message. And I've done this, I do this quite often, and I probably closed 2 projects in the past 6 months from this. Um, is you just reach back out to them, be like, hey, how is your project going? If there's anything you need help with, shoot me a question. And trust me when I say this, like people come back. And I had like this happened twice to me now, where the client comes back and be like, oh, thank you for reaching out to me. Yeah, we started the project and it didn't go how we expected. The Webflow developer didn't know what we was talking about, and they come back to me. Now I got that client, and once you do this, guys, trust me, that client is already sold. Because you reach back out, and it kind of shows that you're going that extra mile. You're standing out that 1/3 of an inch. So yeah, that's one amazing method. And then the second one is reaching out to your old clients. And there's different stuff you can say when you reach out to old clients. Obviously, another one could be, do you need any more help on your project? You can upsell them on SEO or maintenance. Another thing could be um, you just asking them for referrals, being like, hey, this is one line that I like to use a lot, and feel free to copy it. But I always say, hey, I have right now I just launched a couple of projects. I have a free window to take on a project or two. Let me know if you need any help with any projects or if you know anyone that needs any help. And then yeah, send them an email or a Slack message on LinkedIn, whatever it may be. And trust me when I say this, guys, like people do reach out to you and be like, yeah, thank you for reaching out. Oh, I know there's one person who needs a project, and you will close a lot more leads and clients like that. Um, so yeah, make sure that you do your outreach. And this is like a short-term method to get clients. It's not really for the long term, but this is like a short-term method of really getting clients. And this is what and it's very quick to send a message. It does not take long at all. So yeah, make sure that you guys do your outreach. So Vim, do you want to do the next one, which is I believe processes?
Yeah, so this I think I've recently started doing a lot of, especially this year.
Hmm.
As you know, I have other people sort of coming in and helping with other projects. It's just easy to have a process or like a checklist or just a document with all the things I am thinking of, so that everybody is sort of in the same phase and I don't have to keep repeating a lot of the things.
Hmm.
And it doesn't need to be a very complex process of like, this is what I need to do the moment a lead comes through. It's just whatever things that you do in a repeat basis, just put it in a document just so that somebody else can see it. And if somebody else can replicate it, then that one thing that you have to do is can be done by someone else. This is what people say: when you create processes, it's not for you, it's for someone else. It's so that you can easily hand off tasks. And I've personally started doing this for me, not for someone else. It's just back then when I was just myself, whenever a lead comes in, everything is in my mind. And that sort of leads to a bit of a panic because I have no physical record of what are the deliverables, what the timelines are, how long am I supposed to be working on this, what I'm not supposed to do, or even in a lead phase of like what the lead wants, what's the budget I quoted them. It was just everywhere and it's just in my mind. And I have to, I always wake up, I'm like, shit, do I have any work to do today? Because I have no idea of how many projects I have on. But then because there was a down period where I was like, you know what, let's just try to put all of this on a Notion document. Now I sort of know, okay, when a lead comes through, I create this card with this parameters, I just fill it in. And that goes through like a process of like, keeps going down this chain. And if they do accept the project, that card then moves to like a different section on Notion, which is for like project management. And then that will also have, these are all the things I'm supposed to do, these are things they have to give me. That even something as simple as just jotting down when is the timeline I'm supposed to hand over the project is a good reminder of like, okay, I only have 2 more weeks to finish this. Before that, I have no idea when I start a project. I have no idea when I finish. I just finish whenever I finish, which isn't good for business. But yeah, so anytime you have a free time, try to build a process. Watch a lot of YouTube videos. I usually follow all these productivity gurus like Ali Abdal and Thomas Frank and all these people. All of them use Notion, so it's very easy to pick that up. Just you don't. The thing is, they have a different workflow. They have a different business that they're running, but you can pick a lot of small things, tips and tricks on how they use Notion or any other tool that you prefer to use, and then you can sort of adapt it to yourself. I'm not a big fan of copying someone's template or duplicating whatever they're doing on what I'm doing, because then I'm just sort of following someone else and it never works out. So it's always better to build a process on your own. Don't try to follow someone else's process. There's a lot of Webflowers. They put out templates, and this is my Notion template. This is my checklist. Copy it. I would say just use it as a reference and sort of build your own, and never sort of copy someone else's process because it's not long term and you will never follow it.
And I think I would like to add like 2 points to this. Is like, f- firstly, is like is I do agree with what you said, Vim. It's like it's not only for yourself, it's also for other people. And
Yeah.
another thing is it saves so much time. Like
Yeah.
before you, for example, like when I start a project or when I start my day, it's like, oh, what do I do? But if you have like
Yeah.
a process or a checklist, or when you
Yeah.
start a project, it's like, what do you do? If you don't have anything written down, you have to start
Yeah.
thinking, and that takes time and
Yeah. And even
energy.
even just as I say,
Yeah.
just having the deadline on Notion, you're
Yeah.
like, oh,
So
okay,
yeah,
I need to
if
finish
you
this.
have like a checklist written down, you don't even have to think about it. You just open a Notion doc and you just check
Yeah.
everything off.
Yeah.
And yeah, and the second point I want to mention is you don't have to start off with like some crazy detailed process straight away. It could be very simple, as just like a simple card,
Checklist. Yeah.
yeah, was it? I
Just a
think it
to-do
was called a
list.
Kanban
Yeah.
board or something like that.
Yeah.
Like it's just a very simple for that, for like project management, or like a checklist. And then over
Yeah.
time, as you
You add
grow,
to
you
it.
start to, yeah, you
Yeah.
start adding to it, you learn more
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
And
That's
yeah,
what
that's
I
what
did
I've
as
done.
well.
Like, yeah, that's what I done. And I remember
Yeah.
initially it was just so simple. Like
It
it was
was
just
just
like
a
four
card.
steps.
Yeah.
It's just a card with like one property, but now
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
different properties. And
Yeah.
yeah, and again, you can use that for team members that come. If you hire team members, they can easily go in and just look at
Yeah.
your process on Notion Doc, and they will be able to understand everything straight away. And again,
Yeah.
it just saves a lot of time. Um, cool. So let's move on to the next one, which is fun side projects. And this is what I do all the time, and I try to do it like every weekend when obviously I'm not working on client projects. What I like to do is either work on my processes, or I work on like a fun clonable or a side project that I'm doing. So on my Notion, and this falls into like the category of processes as well, I have like a whole Notion document where I have like a list of all of the Webflow sites or tools, or little clonables I want to make. And I have like links to other sites that I'm like, oh, this will be fun to build inside of Webflow. So I have like a bunch of website links in there. And every week I just choose one, and then I start building. And it takes like a couple of weeks to develop it, 1 or 2 hours on the weekend. And yeah, then I got a new clonable. And it not only improves your skills, it also like increases your exposure, and it also helps to land more clients, because you have more assets to show them, right? And another thing is, you might ask yourself, okay, I want to build a fun side project, but what do I build? So I would recommend building a side project that focuses on your weakness. I remember before, that's why I released a slider clonable, because I didn't really like to build sliders. I never really built like a very complex slider before. So that's why I chose to make a clonable about a really complex CMS slider. And bro, trust me, that really, really upped my skills. And
Yeah.
that's what I
I
would say, like,
remember.
yeah, that's what I would say. If your weakness is, for example, a complex filtering system, make a, and you don't have any client projects to, practice that skill, just, on the weekend, a couple hours, or even on a weekday, it doesn't really matter. Just work on a fun clonable and then release it, put it on Webflow, put in your
Yeah.
portfolio as well if you like.
Yeah.
And yeah, it will really, really
And
up your skills. It will build your exposure, and it will
yeah.
also help you land more clients. And I found that to be true.
And bro, this literally was what I did towards end of February and like start of March. There was this natural gap because a lot of the projects
Mm-hmm.
sort of wrapped up. And because we were busy working on this project, there was a natural decline in work.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when I had this idea of like this Webflow tools, and like I was just wondering like, oh, can we do this? And because I had no other client projects to work on, I spent like the whole 2 weeks just building on all these different tools and a website and JetBoost and all that,
Mm-hmm.
and just put it out as a Webflow tool on my website. And that was so fun to work with. Like the whole 2 weeks that I
Yeah.
spent making
And
all
it's
the
because you don't
tools.
have any like constraints, right? You don't have a scope,
Yeah,
you don't have
yeah.
deadline,
It's just
you
like
don't have to deal with client revisions. It's just so fun.
I was
Yeah, I do
I
agree.
was literally like I was walking to Sainsbury's, which is like a grocery store. I was walking to Sainsbury's and I was like, huh, wouldn't it be, how would someone, count how many stuff they have in the CMS? I'm like, oh, maybe I
Mm,
can, and I was like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if they can count CMS items based on categories? And I was like, how would I do
mm,
that? I was on the way back, I was just literally like on a Friday night, I was just walking back home after buying groceries, and I was like, okay, let's build that. And then that night itself, I just built something and it worked. I'm like, oh, okay, now we can add all these other tools and I can put everything
mm.
down in like one page on my website. And that's how the Webflow tools sort of came. Just because I
Yeah.
was bored, right? I had nothing else to do that Friday night. I was like, and it's stuff like this is what happens when you have a down period. It's like your mind is
Mm.
just free to think of stuff, you know?
Yeah. And I think, you know,
And that's how your
it
CMS
it was
slider sort
worth,
of came.
yeah,
Yeah,
it was definitely worth the time of you investing it, isn't it? And
yeah,
another plus is the ROI on that is going to be insane. I mean, you
yeah,
can already see the ROI, isn't it? You're getting a lot more exposure. Like,
yeah,
you got like 50, 60 likes on, your tools, which
yeah.
is
It's
insane.
insane,
So
man.
this is what we're saying, guys. Like, just anything that you create in Webflow
It's just for
is worth
fun.
investing
Just
in.
for fun.
Firstly, it's
Yeah,
fun, and
yeah,
secondly, you can add it in as a marketing asset, and you
yeah.
can add it, to, it's kind of like building up your portfolio in a way,
Yeah.
to show
It's and
clients.
and
And
to give you a real life example, I think this is what FinSuite started off as well. I
Yeah.
remember asking Joe this
Hmm.
question. One of the live stream is, how do you find?
Hmm.
Because I think it was the Q&A with Joe
Yeah.
and Rayma in one of their episodes, and he mentioned how he got started out with FinSuite tools like the CMS library. It's just because he whenever he has free time, he builds this thing, and then over time that sort of grew, and then he released it, which is what I think naturally happens when you have something. If you have time and you have skill, you tend to build something that you want to build, and then you can then put that out to the community either as a paid product or like a
Mm.
free service.
Yeah. And just another example, like there's nothing, it's not related to Webflow. What's that guy's name, man? That he sold that crazy NFT for like millions. I forgot his name, but what he done,
Beeple, is it?
Beeple, yeah, yeah, yeah. So what he
Yeah,
done is he made like one piece of artwork a day, and it was for
yeah,
fun. There was no goals behind it. He wasn't planning on selling it, nothing.
yeah,
So I think
yeah,
he done it for 1,000 days,
yeah.
and at the end, what he done is he gathered all
No,
of those
no,
art pieces.
he did it
I
for
think
5 years or 10 years every single
5 years
day.
or something crazy like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah,
And then he just got all of those art pieces that he could just one like simple. It could be one pixel on the screen, like one art piece every single day, and every day he got better and better and better. And what he done is he just gathered all of that those art pieces and put it in one canvas, and he sold that as an NFT for I don't know how much. It was
sixty
insane,
nine
like
sixty
millions.
nine million dollars. Nice.
$69 million. So that goes to show,
Nice.
like, obviously, I'm not gonna say, I'm not saying that you're gonna get a Webflow project for $69 million,
Yeah,
but
it's just an example,
yeah, it's
right?
just like an analogy, that no
Yeah,
matter, if you're having fun and building up your portfolio, even if it's for yourself, not on the clients, it is worth that time because it is kind of like a portfolio piece.
yeah.
Clients don't really care if you done it for yourself or for another client, as long as they see that you're good at what you do. That's what they care about. So yeah, fun side project. That's a big one
Third one.
and one
Yeah.
of my favorite things to do. So next is marketing. So Vim, you wanna?
Yeah. So I think this sort of leads into the fun projects. The thing with Webflow is like, for me at least, I don't want to market in the traditional way. That's why I'm a big fan of side projects and fun tools and clonables
Hmm.
as a sort of marketing thing. But during a down period, is what a lot of businesses, not just Webflow businesses, but every business, they start doing
Even Apple, man.
sales. Every company, when they have a downtime, they spend more time on marketing. They run sales, they run ads, they run for us in this industry, if you don't want to do the clonables, or it is a time consuming thing to put out tools or clonables or something like that, you can start creating content, right, which we'll talk about after this. But marketing sort of ties in between the fun projects, and the next one we're talking about is content creation, and anything between that is considered marketing. And it's just essential, man. I don't want to
Mm,
spoil content creation. I think you are better at that.
yeah.
But yeah, content
But
creation.
marketing it couldn't only be content creation. It could also be like working on your SEO. Like that's a form of
Yeah,
marketing. Creating blog
yeah,
posts. I mean
yeah.
that's a form of content. But like starting a YouTube channel, planning to start a
Or
YouTube
just
channel,
networking with
stuff like that.
people, right? Like
Yeah,
connecting with
networking.
people
That's a
on
great one.
LinkedIn or
Yeah.
Facebook, or meeting up with people, going to conferences, or attending or organizing a conference or organizing a meetup. All of this sort of comes under marketing, because you're just putting yourself out there, putting your company out
Mm-hmm.
there, or just putting out a tool,
Yeah.
a product, or a service, or a course, or whatever. All of this sort of comes under marketing. It's very generic, very broad. And that one book that I've read recently is the 21 ways of marketing, or something like that, the 21 immutable rules of marketing, or something like that. It's a bit of a very old book, but it tells you the 21 rules of marketing, which while I was listening to it, I was like, oh, it's like all these rules that he was mentioning, I was sort of putting how would we do it on Webflow. And the first rule is like, it's always better to be first than to be best. And I'm like, and I thought back to like Webflow, how does this relate to? It's for me,
Mm.
I just thought about FinSuite, how they were the first to sort of release the CMS library
Mm-hmm.
compared to all the other big agencies, but FinSuite was probably the first. They might not have been the best at it, but they're the first. So
I
then
think
that sort of
attributes they
sticks.
were first as well, isn't it? Or am I
Yeah.
wrong?
No, I think Refocus has used
Okay.
attributes. That comes into second. The second topic is, sometimes it's better to be best than first. So the book is
Mm.
very, very interesting. It's a very short read. It's like 5 hours to listen, or maybe it's like
Mm.
200 page or something like that. Highly recommend that. I was just listening to it like 2 3 weeks ago. But yeah, reading, I wouldn't consider that as marketing, but it helps you grow. Maybe
As
that
yeah, as long
that
as
could have been
we didn't even add that point
education.
as well. Learning,
We
education, yeah.
education and learning could be a
Mm,
huge thing to do during a downtime. Just reading, listening to podcasts, um, watching YouTube videos, watching tutorials, building stuff.
mm,
Education, man. Just reading
yeah.
stuff when you have the time is just so interesting because you can then sort of put that to use the next time you're busy or the next time you're doing sales or marketing. You can sort of put that thing to use, and the moment you put it to use, it sort of sticks with you, right?
Mm. And that's
So
the
yeah,
key, bro. Like, not only like, just a lot of people, they listen and they learn, but they
yeah,
don't put any of it into action. And
yeah.
that's
Because
the key.
when you read when you're busy, you're just reading and and you don't have the time to put it to practice, right? You might read
Mm,
how to do marketing, but because you're so busy doing Webflow or whatever, you're not putting the knowledge to use. Whereas when you're free, your brain is now you can think of like, oh, maybe I can do this, or maybe I can do that, or maybe the next sales call I can improve this. And then when you do get the next sales call, everything is still fresh in your mind because you have sort
yeah.
of processed the information. Whereas when you're busy, even when you read, you're not processing the information because it's so
Mm,
you're occupied with other things, right? So
yeah.
education, attending courses, just doing some interesting things, some new things, learning new skills, that
Mm.
will really really help as well.
And I think, just to add to that, I think another form of education is, it's not only, learning something new. It could also be like reflecting on your past experiences that you have had, whether that's like sales calls or, client projects. You can.
Yeah,
That's why I encourage
good
everyone. The
point.
one thing that I
Yeah,
do regret is, make sure that you know everything that you learned down, every mistake that you made, everything that
yeah,
you've learned. Make sure that you note it down somewhere, because
yeah,
I regret doing that, because I made the same mistake twice, and that's the reason I done that, is because I forgot to note it down. So
yeah,
that's why I recommend, just note everything down and like reflect on your past client experiences. Think about this. This is why now I have like and this falls into the category of process as well. Like during my down period, I made a whole process about, I made a whole SOP about client calls. So now I have an entire Notion document where I track my client calls, straight after the call, and note down the scope and everything, so I do not forget it.
okay,
And I also create like a questionnaire and all of this stuff. So, and yeah, it's all about just learning. And then because I made that client call document, now I know for a fact that every single client call I have every single thing noted down. Then I can review it back and then look at, what went wrong, what could I have done better, and that's how you improve. So not only learning something new, but also learning, from your past experiences. I think that's a huge thing, because most people, they can't learn from something new or by reading a book. They have to learn from their own experiences. So it's always, I highly recommend reflecting on whatever you've done in the past, and noting it down,
yeah,
and yeah, learning from your mistakes basically.
yeah.
Cool. Cool. So the next one is create content. And this is, I think,
We
I don't
shouldn't
really
be
know what to
talking
say
about
about this.
this. We are not the most
we kind
consistent
of
at it.
we're kind of hypocritical in this one, but it's very true. Like, whether that's LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, whatever, Twitter, whatever your desired platform is, make sure that you create content. And not only, when you're in your down period, it's easy just to create like one blog post or one LinkedIn post and just
Yeah,
leave it as that. You can tie creating content into it processes and build an entire content management system, like an entire CMS for your LinkedIn.
yeah,
And that's what I done as well. I made an entire CMS for my LinkedIn, my blog posts, and my, yeah, and Twitter actually. So creating content, and one thing that I want to mention is, make sure that you batch create content. If you're in your down period, the number one thing that I would recommend, outside of obviously outreach and stuff, in terms of content, is batch create your content. Whether it's like three, what I like to do is, I like to spend like 2 or 3 hours on the weekend just batch creating as much content as possible. Sometimes I create two, sometimes I create five. So like, batch create your content and make sure that you schedule them. So, once you're not in your down period, once you have a lot of client work and you have to post something, all you have to do is just go back into your Notion document, copy, paste, and then post.
yeah.
So yeah, batch create content and make sure that you schedule. Cool. And you have anything else to add to that, Vim? Or...
No.
Cool, man. So the
You should.
conclusion.
Are you gonna cut that?
That's cool. That's cool. We believe that.
Cool.
So, to conclude, do you have anything to say, Vim, or?
I think again goes back to the beginning point is it's just natural to be in the down period, but what you do
Mhm,
during the down period determines whether you go up or you just remain there. A
mhm.
lot of people sort of end up messaging with like, "Oh, I had two clients and then now I don't. What do I do?" I think this is for them. When you have no clients or no work to do, your main goal is to find clients and find work to do, and to do that, these 4 or 5 things that we said will help you get that. Like it's sort of these are another topic could have been how do you do lead generation, and this 3, 4, 5 points would, be the same except for maybe education, which is more internal. Everything else very external. Everything else sort of pretty much just says put yourself out there. And I think whenever you're in a downtime, put yourself out there. Show your work. A lot of people, you work on 10 projects but you don't even show them. You put it in a portfolio but you don't post it, you don't make video out of it, you don't share it on Webflow or on Dribble or whatever. Then what's the point, right? Like every time you work, make sure you share that work, share your knowledge. Clonables again are a great way to share what you know. And right now I am looking at a lot of clonables and I'm like, oh, this person is pretty good, let's chat with them, see whether they can help us out with something. And I can only imagine, bigger agencies, bigger people doing that as well. If I have the knowledge to do that, I'm sure somebody who has been, in the industry for 5, 10 years will probably look at the showcase and you can actually see how a person builds, right? And I think this is how FinSuite also sort of gets their talent. It's through the community and through the showcase. Yeah. So my main
Yeah, I mean, I've
conclusion
I've
is,
done that
yeah,
as well personally. Like, I go on, the showcase. I remember like the
yeah.
other day, I saw something really cool, and then I checked out his in portfolio, and it was sick, man. Like, he had so many like cool projects that used code, and I reached out to him.
I
We
know who
jumped
you're
on a
talking
call.
about.
I don't know. Yeah, we'll speak after, but yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, like, yeah, man, is so good for like exposure, and then you can
yeah,
also have people reach out to you, build relationship with agencies or other freelancers and stuff like that, and it just grows from there, man. Just one
yeah,
person after another, one client after another is just gonna grow, and the snowball effect will come into play.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, that's it, guys. Okay, that wraps up this episode. Again, this is very normal to have down periods, and we just mentioned a couple of things that you can do to make sure that you spend your down periods effectively, the most efficient way possible, so that your business grows rather than it gets stuck and you get into panic
Yeah,
mode and then whatever. So yeah, guys, if you did enjoy this episode, make sure that you leave a like. And if you have any questions about anything that we mentioned or yeah, anything of the sort, make sure that you message us on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's will be below. All right, guys, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next week.